peeps, it is I again, Ancient Swan, and this is another one of those videos where I give the most obtrusive humor under the guise of a thinly veiled history lesson. Also, I made a map, but bollocks to that, we'll come to that later. In the meantime, without further ado, let's get stuck right in. Today, ladies, gents, and lady gents, we are in Chernobyl, Ukraine. Or, as one particular YouTube commenter can't wait to tell me, it's Chernobyl with an O, not an E. But fuck him. He doesn't understand how languages work, and so here we are, still in Chernobyl, Ukraine. The Chernobyl disaster was a catastrophic nuclear accident that occurred here on April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the north of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, which was then still part of the Soviet Union. This event is widely regarded as the worst nuclear disaster in history, both in terms of cost and casualties. Imagine the worst possible oops moment, multiply it by 1,000 and slap a nuclear sticker on it. That's Chernobyl for you. On April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near Pripyat, Ukraine, decided it was time to remind us that playing with nuclear power can be like trying to juggle chainsaws while blindfolded. There is very little margin for error and fingers can go missing much easier than you may think. In case you're out of the loop, things did not end well here. First, let's discuss the brains behind this masterpiece. The plant was built in the 1970s and early 1980s. Eventually, the plant housed 4 reactors, each of the RBMK type, a Soviet-designed nuclear reactor. Now, RBMK reactors are like your kid brother's homemade rocket ship they made for that school project. You know, the one that went tits over ass, and the school still uses it as an example to all the other kids generations later? It was ambitious, flawed, a ticking time bomb. And a lifelong lesson to all the other kids to never ever drink cola while shoving Mentos up your nostrils. These Soviet Union nuclear reactors were known to have certain design flaws, including instability at low power levels and a lack of a robust containment structure. The decision to build these reactors despite their flaws was influenced by a combination of ambitious Soviet energy plans and the pressure to meet industrial goals. And so the Russians, those well-known perpetrators of high-class, top-notch, top-quality manufacturing, such as the Lada, decided in their infinite wisdom, hey, let's just roll the dice and see what happens. Do not forget that this was the Cold War era, when the fight to prove to the world that you were better than those capitalist pigs across the ocean was never-ending. And so the Soviet Union leaders unanimously agreed, fuck it, that'll do. The disaster unfolded during a late-night safety test on Reactor 4. The test's objective was to simulate a power outage to ensure that the reactor could be safely shut down in the event of a power failure. Turns out that it could not. This was the kind of safety test that asks, what could go wrong? And the answer was, everything. Everything could go wrong. A combination of operator errors and inherent flaws in the reactor's design led to a catastrophic chain reaction. At 1:23 a.m., Reactor 4 went boom, and Chernobyl turned into the world's worst fireworks display. The explosion blew the roof off the reactor building, and subsequent fires spread the radioactive material further. The immediate area was heavily contaminated, and the radioactive plume drifted over much of Europe. Radioactive material spewed out like it was going out of fashion, and Europe got an unwanted glow-up. Nobody developed any cool new superpowers, though, and for many Europeans, this was definitely their biggest regret. In the immediate aftermath, firefighters and plant workers attempted to extinguish the fires and contain the damage, often with minimal protective gear. The emergency response may as well have amounted to a bunch of guys in rubber boots trying to stop the tide with mops. Like that Viking king who once sat on an English beach, declared himself a god, and told everyone he could stop the tide, no problem. He was wrong, and he died too. Firefighters and plant workers, bless their souls, ran into Reactor 4 with less protection than a streaker at a football game. Radiation doesn't care if you're brave, it's going to shit all over you regardless. Many of these first responders suffered acute radiation sickness and later died from radiation exposure. The Soviet authorities, while not spending time manufacturing the world's highest quality goods, got involved in their second biggest habit, which was to take their sweet time admitting there was a problem. Problem? What problem? There is no problem here, comrade. Please do ignore the skin that's melting off my face. This is not happening. You must reject the evidence of your eyes and your ears. It wasn't until 2 days later when radiation alarms went off at a nuclear power plant in Sweden, and the Swedish started waving the something's not right here flag that the Soviets finally admitted, yeah, maybe we should tell people. Pripyat, the town near the plant, was finally evacuated 36 hours later. However, for many of the residents, this was already too late. Imagine being told to pack for a quick trip, only to never come back. Modern tourist trips will now take you to see those leftovers, things left behind, books and teddy bears, if that's what floats your boat. Approximately 49,000 people were initially evacuated, and in the weeks following the disaster, the Soviet government evacuated a total of 116,000 people from the surrounding areas, creating an exclusion zone that remains largely uninhabited to this day, except for Dave, but he's always been a bit weird. Chernobyl became the poster child for why nuclear power might not be the best idea, like a public service announcement on why you shouldn't lick your local COVID-infested flat earther at the pub. The cleanup operation involved building a sarcophagus over the reactor, not the Egyptian kind, but more like a giant concrete band-aid. This was done in a hurry, and results were, well, better than no band-aid, I suppose. In 2016, they decided to upgrade the band-aid to a new safe confinement structure. This behemoth is supposed to contain the radioactive mess for the next 100 years, successfully kicking the can down the street for the next generation's next generation to worry about, and absolving ourselves of all guilt because it's no longer our problem, which is nice. I myself am quite a large fan of not having any problems. Think of this new second giant sarcophagus as the world's greatest monument to human failure. It might as well be, because it cost hundreds of millions, and it's absolutely massive big. This is definitely a monument, just not one that anybody wants to celebrate. The health impacts of the Chernobyl disaster are still being studied and debated, although one suspects that the only assholes debating them are the same ones desperately trying to avoid any insurance payouts, deny, defend, depose, as the saying goes. The health impacts are a grim roll call of what happens when humans play God with uranium. The immediate death toll was 31, mostly brave first responders who had no idea what they were up against. Long-term effects include cancers and other radiation-related illnesses, with death estimates all over the map. The total number of deaths resulting from the disaster vary widely and may never be truly known, with some studies suggesting thousands of premature deaths due to radiation exposure. Environmentally, the exclusion zone, a 30-kilometer radius around the plant, remains one of the most radioactively contaminated areas in the world. However, this exclusion zone has also become a bizarre wildlife sanctuary. Wolves, boars, and other critters moved in because apparently even radiation is better than human company, and this is something I can 100% get behind. Seriously, if you were to ask me if I'd like a needle full of radiation stuck straight into my balls, or if I'd like to spend a Saturday night with a load of football supporters in a pub, I'm genuinely not sure which one I'd choose. This new nature reserve filled with wolves that can read minds, spiders as large as bears, and packs of dogs with human hands growing out the side of their heads is like Mother Nature's way of saying, "You shitheads gone done fucked up bad. Now leave me alone while I take it from here." Chernobyl's legacy is a cautionary tale with a side of gallows humor. It's a lesson in why you shouldn't cut corners with nuclear reactors, because the fallout, quite literally, is a nightmare. Public perception of nuclear energy took a nosedive, and the disaster led to tighter regulations, and some countries rethinking their love affair with atomic energy, a debate that continues to go on today, not helped by further disasters such as that at Fukushima. The exclusion zone attracts tourists, scientists, and filmmakers, all drawn by its eerie, abandoned landscapes and wishful hopes of randomly appearing in the next Andrei Tarkovsky film. But that's not going to happen, because Tarkovsky's dead. He died just a few months after Chernobyl went bang. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. You decide, little stalker. In pop culture, Chernobyl is like the ultimate ghost story. Books, documentaries, and the HBO miniseries Chernobyl have immortalized the event. The show did for Chernobyl what Jaws did for sharks. Only instead of fearing the ocean, we're now just hoping our local power plant wasn't built by anyone even slightly involved with the Soviet Union. Now join me and raise a toast to the grand fuck-up that is the human race. Here's to learning from our mistakes, or at least crossing our fingers and desperately wishing that someone has learned from the mistakes. Because it won't be me. It never is. You'll wait a goddamn very long time before I learn shit. Talking about mistakes, my wife has just very politely screamed into my ear that if you don't like and subscribe, then she will drag me to Ukraine and pay some dangerous people some bloody good money to throw me into the burning cauldron that is reactor number 4. I don't doubt she'll do it either. She's determined, and I suspect she has a secret bank account with enough money in it to carry this threat through. So please do help. Also, there is a Patreon which does exist. You can find that in the description below. Join if you like. It'll buy me coffees. And I like coffee. I drink it when I can't drink the vodka I really want. Thanks in advance. Now, if you're wondering about some of the footage in this video, it comes from my own very self-made map. This one was made for the game Cities Skylines 2 because I'm literally just as addicted to world building and reimagining history as I am addicted to typing shit onto my computer and turning the best bits into these YouTube videos. If you like them, then don't forget that subscribing and Patreoning thing I mentioned a moment ago. And if you like to play on this map, then you can, of course, find it for free from the Paradox Mods site by following the link in the description below. To be honest, I really would have liked to make Chernobyl and its abandoned buildings much more of a feature in this map. But unfortunately, the static assets for ruined, abandoned buildings doesn't yet exist. Maybe one day. I have instead, though, included the real-world roadmap for Chernobyl. So there is that. I hope you have fun building over this little bit of history. Now, would you like some map information? Sure, might as well. Here it is. Climate -3 to 19 degrees Celsius, buildable area 78%, outside connections, roads, rail, shipping, air, power, natural resources, wheat 116 square kilometers, forest 82.3 kilotons or 55.9 kilotons, oil 125 kilotons. Terrain. Although Chernobyl sits on a very small hill, it is surrounded by very flat land and dozens of little islands. And that's it for today. Fine humans of YouTube, that was Chernobyl. This has been its map, and this sentence is what it sounds like when I end it all. Because here be where the end be. Thanks for coming and see you next time. Peace, love, and Chernobyl with an E. See you later, sweet cheeks.